Hey guys, Nate here. I thought I would give you a little tutorial on how I balance my 250 quad propellers. I just got these new ones from Hobby King. They're 645s. They are extremely stiff and fairly well balanced. I was really pretty happy with how well they turned out. They are very stiff compared to my 5.3s, or 5.4s actually. The only problem is they have a 7-inch hole, so you do have to use the spacer. I need the 5mm spacer, so I need the second largest one here. And hold on to this, because this is going to be what you need to put on your quad when you go ahead and mount these propellers. But I thought I would give you a little idea of how I balance these. So the first thing you'll need, I got mine off of Amazon. It's just a cheap, I don't know, it's $5, $7 balancing thing here. And so what you can do is you can do it pretty much any size, because as you can see here, the cone shape will actually fit the hole, and both cones on either side will make it pretty centered. But what I've always liked to do is I like to take that spacer and actually just put it in there, just like it's going to be on the quad. And then go ahead and tighten everything down. Try and get them pretty even. It doesn't have to be perfect, obviously, but I do try and make them relatively even. Not too tight, snug though. So now I've got this thing balanced, and what I do is I just take a relatively flat area. This table is not the perfect example, but I'm just going to do it for demonstration purposes. And you put it on there, and you see, does it move? Now, this is a bad example because this one is perfectly balanced right out of the package, or at least good enough for us. Now, they don't have to be perfect. If you wanted to get more and more perfect, you can, but for 250 size, this is plenty good enough for me, I find. You just want to try and reduce a lot of the Jello, and look at that, right out of the package, beautiful. But let's see if the other one is just as nice here. So just unwind this, pull it off, grab my next one. Again, put the spacer on there. You don't have to use a spacer, but I read somewhere it's good to balance it just like it's going to be on the quad. So that's what I like to do. Those cones will help center it up anyways. A little heavy. These smaller ones, it's hard to tell. What I always do is I always flip it over, right? Because there's two things that you're trying to balance. And that is, one, the propeller, which side is heavier than the other. And two, the hub. One side of the hub may be heavier than the other side of the hub. And if that's the case, then really what you want to do is you want to get a little hot glue on the lighter side. So this guy is just slightly off. Yeah, we can see that this back one, this one that's coming down, is a little bit heavier, and we'll see how we can fix that in just a second. I find that if you do find a propeller that is perfectly level on one side, but when you flip it over and give it a turn, that it moves when it's on the other side, you have a hub problem. And the other way you can tell a hub problem is you put it vertical. Alright, let's try that again. So that indicates that this side is the heavier hub. You can kind of see which way it kind of ends up. That has nothing to do with the balance of the blades, it has to do with the balance of the hub. When I would do my 8 and 10-inch props, I would get this to be perfect, so no matter what angle you put it at, up, down, left, right, flat, straight, anything, it would be perfect. For mini quads, I break so many propellers, all I'm trying to do is just reduce Jello. If I was in a rush and this was my last pair, I'd probably leave this guy alone, just because a little bit of weight's not that big of a deal. Right, it looks like it's primarily the hub that's actually causing the problem. Let's go ahead and correct that a little bit. Yeah, see how it's relatively balanced on this side? That means that's the heavier side of the hub. We can validate that just by lifting it up and putting it straight down. And it falls forward. Okay. So I'm not really going to do much, but let's go ahead and go over how we balance this. What I need is a razor blade, some Scotch tape. I used to do the sanding method, but it took way too much effort, and it was not worth it at all. And this is crazy. Look at this now. It's back to being normal. Now again, you could spend good money on a nice a prop balancing unit, but I find that I'm not too worried about it. It actually might be that this side of the hub is actually heavier than this side, which is way heavier than this entire half. It really is an art form. So what I like to do, now this one is actually pretty well balanced, but I'll get a pretty big piece of tape. The reason why I get big, because it's easier to handle. So, well, hell, that's not working. There we go. Let's see. Bad example. Great props, I guess. So based off of this side, let's just pretend like this is the heavier side. So the further out you go from the hub placing this tape, it's going to make a huge difference. So you want a little bit of tape at the tip or a lot of tape at the front. So what I'll do is I'll take the piece of tape and I'll push it down. Now I've got all this extra room. It just makes it easier to handle. So I cut and I peel back. And now I've got a great little piece of tape right in the center. No flaps or anything hanging off the edge. And I put it on there and it's pretty well balanced. Now if it wasn't balanced, okay, let's say it was a little too heavy on one side, what I do is I just take and I just trim, just mark a little line right in the tape, that little score line right there. Just take your fingernail and peel it back, and you'll peel off right to that score line. And you just kind of, you work with that. These are really very tolerant props. I like to lift up, give it a reset, usually when I flip sides. Now that makes sense why that's the heavier side, because that's the side I put tape on. Because this prop was actually pretty well balanced right out of the package. So I always like to lift it up and reseat it, just in case I had a little lip, hit a piece of glass, hit a piece of something in the glass. And there you go. That's how I go ahead and balance my 250 props. Thanks. Don't forget to subscribe. See you later.